John Ameh, Abuja The Presidency on Sunday heavily criticized the United States, the United Kingdom and the European Union for voicing their opposition against the suspension of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onnoghen, without allegedly following due process of law. It said the three did not only act in a haste, but also made serious mistakes and unfounded assumptions in the stance they took on President Muhammadu Buhari's decision to suspend the CJN. It noted that the US, the UK and the EU got things wrong when they concluded that the suspension was linked to the February polls. In a statement on Sunday night by the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Mr. Garba Shehu, the presidency described the stance of the three as unfortunate. The statements by the three seem more driven by unfounded assumptions and, to be honest, a certain condescension to this African democracy. This is unfortunate. But this gives us an opportunity to clarify some points in the hope that these three friends reach a deeper understanding of the situation. The statements by the US, UK and EU speak of their respect for constitutional practice and fair elections. However, the positions they stake tend to contravene rather than strengthen these laudable objectives, the presidency argued. Defending Buhari's action, the presidency claimed that Onnoghen was the architect of his own travails. It stated further, CJN Onnoghen's situation is one of his own making and, to a large degree, his own choosing. The CJN was brought before the Code of Conduct Tribunal because of a serious breach of law regarding his assets declaration. This is not a mere technicality like innocently placing a document in a wrong file or mistakenly placing yesterday's date on a document. All credible evidence indicates the CJN owned and operated several secret bank accounts. Unexplained large sums of money, exceeding several millions of dollars, have passed through these accounts. Several $1,000s are currently packed in the accounts. Multiple deposits of equal sums of money were deposited in some of those accounts during the same day. Such rapid and equal deposits are indicative of a person attempting to evade banking reporting laws and regulations. Thus far, CJN Onnoghen has given no plausible explanation for the funds or for failing to report the subject accounts in his assets declaration despite having ample time and opportunity to explain the omission. Given the amount of money involved in the CJN's inability to explain the source of the funds, the most plausible explanation at this point is also the most unfortunate explanation. No one did this to CJN Onnoghen. He and he alone is to blame for this turn of events. Read also, how Lagos prophet hypnotized, defrauded me event 59.7 meters victim. The presidency expressed concern that the same US, UK and EU that had before now chided Nigeria on corruption issues, were turning a blind eye to Onnoghen's case. It added, over the years and with great frequency, the authors of the three statements have advised and even chided Nigeria about official corruption. Now we are presented with the sad and unwanted situation where the CJN is discovered to have a vast, unexplained amount of money in his pocket. Because of this, he has been thoroughly discredited. It is untenable that a person in such compromised circumstances would be allowed to preside over the entire judicial system of a great nation. That would travesty the nation and what it stands for. Had the situation been reversed and the US, UK or any EU member government found that its chief judicial official is the recipient of large sums of money of questionable origin and Nigeria suggested that you retain the person in that position, you would question Nigeria's bona fides. You also would swiftly move to suspend the official pending final determination of the causes against him. The statement further asked if any of the three would allow an Onnoghen to preside over its judiciary after the latest discoveries. The presidency stated more, not one of your nations would allow a person enmeshed in legal uncertainty to preside over your legal systems until the cloud has been cleared from him. That would incentivize corruption and assault the rule of law. Thus, the CJN should have and could have helped the process in this regard by recusing himself from the bench until this matter is settled. Instead, he indefinitely postponed the NJC meeting for no plausible reason except to avoid any consideration of this matter by the NJC. Again, this calls into question his motives while undermining the normal operations of the judiciary. The CJN cannot be allowed to use his office to shield himself from the normal operation of the law as applied to any other jurist or any other Nigerian for that matter. Such a ruse is effectively an abuse of office. His position is one of utmost public trust. It is not a shield to protect him from the fair consequence of his own actions. Despite these errors and omissions by the CJN, let us make this very clear, he has not been removed from office. Nor has he been permanently replaced. Those who claim that he has been permanently removed, do so out of imprecision of thought or mischief. CJN Onnoghen has been suspended pending the final determination of the substantive issues in his matter. The suspension is only temporary. This is only as it should be. He cannot sit as both defendant and umpire in his own matter. No legal system allows for such self-interested adjudication. The US, UK and EU should not now ask us to embrace such an anomaly. While the three friends seemed to give much credence to those who question the constitutionality of the suspension, they seemed to give less to those who believe what we did is constitutional and protective of the integrity of the judiciary. Only the three can answer why they have assumed this bias. On the issue of linking the suspension with next month's elections, the presidency replied, the three make a curious direct linkage between the CJN suspension and the elections. However, in Nigerian law there is no such linkage. The CJN does not run the elections, nor is he the first arbiter of any electoral complaints. He and the Supreme Court will only get involved as the final arbiter at the end of the appellate process. For the authors to link the CJN to the elections in this way is illogical unless they assume that election complaints will be filed and will go all the way to the Supreme Court. Here perhaps they know something about the intentions of certain political actors to which we are not privy. Yet, even with that, the US, UK and EU should want any such matters to be heard by a Supreme Court led by a CJN without an obvious and outstanding ethical and legal blemish on his ledger. To have such a person